Today we're going to be talking about the Pokemon card market as we always do. We'll take a look at the TCG player best selling. But to answer the question, do I think Pokemon cards will ever get back to MSRP again? I do think Pokemon cards will get back to MSRP. However, I don't think every set necessarily will get back to MSRP. I don't think every product will get back to MSRP. And I think it's possible the days of $80 to $90 booster boxes are just over forever. So let's get into it and start talking about it. We'll start with Mega Evolutions booster boxes. This is good to see, first off, that it's come down a little bit. So this is the enhanced booster boxes showing pre-orders of about $300, but now it's down to $384. Pre-release starts this weekend, so we'll kind of start to see some information out there about Mega Evolutions. We'll see information about pull rates and all that as people get into their tournaments and able to open some packs for us, so that'll be fun to see. If you participate in a local pre-release event, that'll be a lot of fun. I don't personally, but I would love to someday because they would just be so much fun. So let me know in the comments if you guys are going to a pre-release this weekend, and let me know how it goes. But Mega Evolutions, it's interesting because this is good to see, actually. And you're going to say, Parrish, why is it good to see? It's over $120 above MSRP. That's not good. But it is available for sale on GameNerds.com for $250, and it hasn't sold out. It's been up for probably a day and a half, maybe even 2 days at this point. And it's still available at $250. So that's good to see because something like Destined Rivals at $250 would be gone instantly. So it's nice to see that Mega Evolutions either is printed so much they have so much available, or that the demand isn't as much as Destined Rivals is, in that the price at $250 is not selling out instantly, which is, again, good to see. So for full disclosure, I did buy one box on Game Nerds, but I did have a $75 off coupon. I essentially got it for $175, which I guess is $200 after tax. So at $200, I'm pretty comfortable with that. But for my original argument, I could see a world in which Mega Evolutions 2, 3, 4, the better sets start coming out. And, you know, the heaters of this box are Lucario, Gardevoir, Venusaur, really popular Pokemon, but sort of a tier below the Gengars and the Charizards and the Gen 1 high flyers that will really carry other sets. And so I see a world where in 1.5 years, where they're printing new Mega Evolution sets that are even better than this base set, and they're still reprinting this base set to where this boxes might come down to a level closer to MSRP, especially if we hit a bear market or get into a lull or something like that where the Pokemon boom ends. There is a world where this goes down. On the other hand, and this is of course me fence sitting, but that's all investing is risk management, assessing all of your risks and kind of taking the best course of action you think based on the risk reward analysis that you come up with. So there is another world where this Mega Evolutions block never goes down to MSRP, and all of these booster boxes, because the strong bull market continues for another year, another 2 years maybe, there's a world where these boxes never come down to MSRP, and you know that's a realistic possibility. So that is exactly why I've already bought 2 boxes of Mega Evolutions, one at $250 and one for $200, as I just explained, just in case this $250 mark is the new normal going forward. So there's obviously 2 cases, and that's why I have to hedge my bets as to, in case this is a new normal going forward and this is the world I have to play in, I'll continue to play in it and continue to make moves, because in 5 years, do I see this box being less than $200? No, me personally. But that's just how I see risk. That's just how I'm managing things. So I'm definitely not going all in at $280, but I am nibbling here and there when I can find them between $200 and $250. So that's kind of my thought on Mega Evolutions. And again, you know, my overall thoughts is that I'd much rather put money into Phantasmal Flames, even though it's a smaller set. I think the popular Pokemon could carry that set. And that's enough on Mega Evolutions. But the next one, and this is the exact reason I've been wrong on Destined Rivals. I said don't buy here, and I'm not buying here. I have a position of 4 boxes at $220 that I bought way back here in June, July, and summer. But now that it's gone up, I mean, Destined Rivals at $379, $364, $350. So, I mean, huge sales going forward. And this is one that I said I wouldn't buy. I would be waiting for a reprint. Now, if a reprint comes out, distributors are probably going to be selling that somewhere around $250. That means the stores are going to have to be selling it around $300. So I could see the floor of this being moved up to $300, even with reprints. Destined Rivals is that good of a set that my entry point keeps moving up, but I'm definitely waiting for a reprint on this. But that's the problem. I think so many people are on the sidelines waiting for a reprint, while rip and shippers are buying it at this price to keep ripping it for their packs, for their streams, for their pack breaks. And people are willing to buy this set at $10 a pack because it's so popular. So rip and shippers are still buying it here. Investors are waiting to pounce on it. I think any reprint is just going to be bought up immediately. So for me personally, this one might be one that's already got away from me. I have my 4 boxes, and I'll have to be happy with that. I'm waiting for a reprint to see if prices come down. But if prices don't come down, I'm not going to be chasing this at $360. But this set is, I think, in my opinion, the best set of the Scarlet Violet era. So I do think this will continue to do well. And again, in 5 years, do I think this will be over $360? Yes. So if your time frame is that long and you want to sit on it and you're okay with having money stagnant for a while, as crazy as it is, this might not be a terrible play. But I'm personally not buying in at this price, not chasing. The Prismatic Evolutions bundles and ETBs are both on the first page of best selling, and I do think these two are what my attention is going to be moving towards going forward. You know, if you've been watching this channel, you know me, I've been harping on 151, Blooming Waters, all of those as much as you could buy them. But now 151 is starting to move up, and Blooming Waters are starting to move up. It's harder to find those at $10 a pack or $120 for Blooming Waters. So I might start switching over to Prismatic Evolutions ETBs. And here's my thought process on these. I can still find these anywhere from $90 to $100. And again, that gets you right around that $10 a pack. But for a sealed product, I do think Pokemon's reprint strategies going forward are going to be less ETBs and less booster boxes going forward. So those are going to be the premier products. Because this is a specialty set, we don't get booster boxes for these. I do think there will come a point where they'll stop printing these Prismatic Evolutions ETBs, just like they did with 151. So I'm starting to pick up Prismatic Evolutions ETBs. I've picked up 2 in the last month here so far. I've been picking up 1 per week at $100 just to build a small position. When I look at this, in 3 years, do I think this will be a $100 box? No, I think it'll be definitely higher than that. I think it can follow a trajectory closer to 151 and where it goes to $300 a box. I don't think necessarily it'll get there as quickly as 151 just because of the bull market we've had. But again, risk versus reward. Could it happen? Absolutely. Is there a world where these go down to $50, $60 MSRP? There is a chance, however small. And it's interesting because you do start to see the sentiment on Prismatic Evolution shift. You start to see YouTubers, TikTok, short form content, all that stuff talk about how bad of a set Prismatic is. And that's sort of the cycle that all of these sets go through. People get tired of opening it, tired of the bad pull rates, tired of not getting anything, tired of the crowns. It starts falling out of favor a little bit. And that is the time you want to be moving into it. So I am picking up Prismatic Evolutions ETBs. I'll be start picking up 1 per week going forward just to kind of build a small position. I already have a position of ETBs that I bought at MSRP. But again, for these products, I don't think any reprints from distribution are going to come out at MSRP. So I don't think you're going to be able to buy at MSRP that way. Obviously, if you can get it from Targets, Walmarts, Costco's, all of those at MSRP, jump on those because that's a no-brainer buy. But even on the secondary market, I am starting to pick some of these up to hold long-term because I do think Prismatic Evolutions is the set going forward. And Pokemon has shown they like to print these big boxes like Blooming Waters, the new Prismatic box that they sent to Sam's Club. So that means these ETBs might become more of a scarce product on its own. Even if the price per pack of Prismatic starts to come down, these ETBs could keep rising. So for me personally, I am starting to move into Prismatic ETBs here at this price and plan on doing that for the foreseeable future. Charizard, this is the one that's interesting from 151. I had been screaming to buy this card for a little while, but now the price of it is $281, $279, $269 last sales. So I mean, crazy sales, crazy growth for this one. Looking at the 3-month chart, this was $185 3 months ago, even under $200 back in August. So it's 1 month ago, under 200, and now it's up to 270, 280. So, I mean, that's a huge gain. That's 50% growth just in the last month. And really because of that, I was buying these. I'm not buying these anymore unless I grade it and sell it in a 10. And then I will buy one to recoup and kind of run the play again. But I'm not buying these as sort of a speculative play, grading play, just because I think the price is going to go up from here. Because I do think it could retrace, just because it's been close to hitting that all-time high right around 290. And if it can't break through this 290, I could see it coming right back down, sort of like it did back here in February and March. It was up at 290. Of course, February and March reprint, there was a lot of Blooming Waters that were being opened and all of that. So that's what kind of drove the price down. But again, it's something that has happened before, so it could happen again. So risk management, I'm not chasing this. Now that it's up 50%, I was buying it back when it was $200. I felt very comfortable with it in there. Now that it's up to $300, feel much less confident in buying it. So I'm only going to be buying this to replenish any PSA 10s that I sell, and I can run the play again. And that's sort of the case for all the 151 singles. We'll talk about those as we get to them. 151 booster bundles, sort of the same thing. I think there's opportunity here at, if you can find these $80 to $90 on Facebook Marketplace for people that scored from vending machines. I do think there's opportunity there. At $100, I'm not buying, just because, again, I think for $100, I would rather buy Prismatic Evolutions ETB. Gets me more packs of a set with higher set value. So that's just my personal opinion. I do still have 151 booster bundles. I'm holding on to those, not selling the ones that I do have, but not buying more at this price. Victini, the art illustration rare, art rare. This thing has been going crazy. I had said this was a buy back down when it was $7, $8, $9. Now it's up to 17, 16, 15. Is it still a buy? Maybe. I would say yes. I would lean towards yes. I could still see this going up a little bit more. However, I'm much more reserved on it. Me personally, I'm not buying these just because I'd rather buy the ETB promos like Snorlax, Eevee, Magneton. All three of those are cards at this $15 price point that I would rather have instead, just because the ETBs are a more scarce product, which makes the promo cards a little bit more scarce. And those are more popular Pokemon than Victini. So just, again, I do think this card is great, don't get me wrong, but I don't see it going the way of Greninja and all those, just because I don't think this art is quite on that level, but you never know. I've been wrong before. I could be wrong again. I do like that card, but at $15, there's other plays. That's sort of the theme of this whole thing. There's just other plays I'd rather be making as these price points go up and up. Black Bolt and White Flare booster bundles at $45. I mean, that's a pretty interesting price point. I would rather look at Destined Rivals. Like, I'd rather have Destined Rivals at $50 for a booster bundle. That's not on the first page, so I'm not sure. But honestly, that's a pretty good price, especially if you want to just rip some pack. At under $10 a pack, Black Bolt, White Flare have really good hit rates. There's still a lot of value in those top chase cards. So those aren't bad, especially if you're looking for something to rip. Evolving Skies booster box, I of course don't have one of these, but I've got to look at it. There is one on Danny Phantom's website that I've been eyeing, but it's $2,900 on his website, which sounds crazy until you look at recent sales of $2,650, $2,850, $2,750. So, I mean, it's right in line with there, but unfortunately on his website, you got to pay tax, and the queue is up at Pokemon Center. So hold on. So this is one, again, it's just gotten away from me a little bit. Do I think this could go up? Maybe. Do I think it could go down? Yes. I mean, it could stay stagnant for a long time. I know people think Evolving Skies can't go down and it'll be $10,000 next year, but there's a world where this just sits stagnant for a long time in this $2,500 to $300 or to $3,000 range, and that's just not a risk I'm willing to take. I do think there's just better opportunities. Almost with $3,000, I could buy a lot of 151 and a lot of Prismatic Evolutions for $3,000. So, my opinion, there's just a lot more I can do with $3,000. From a personal collection standpoint and from a flipping standpoint, there's just more I'd rather do. So I'm not touching Evolving Skies at this point. The Umbreon EX and the Umbreon VMAX Alt-Art, it's interesting. These two are going in opposite directions. The Umbreon VMAX from Evolving Skies was down to $1,300, but now it's shot all the way up to... can't be right. What? It says $2,250, $2,200, and the next active listing is $2,200. I mean, that's insane. If this card really is running, then we just found something crazy. But this card was $1,300, again, literally last month, and now it's shot up to $1,500. But if we're seeing sales, I mean, I guess, yeah, you see here 10 items sold on September 3rd to September 5th. So maybe someone's doing a little bit of buyout on this. I would be staying away from this. If you don't have this, there's no chance I'll be buying this at $2,200, $2,400. That's just an insane price. That's crazy. I think people are making plays on this because the PSA 10 was running a little bit. But so I guess if you're asking me, would I rather have this or an Evolving Skies booster box, since this is listed at $2,683? I'd much rather have an Evolving Skies booster box. But for me personally, I'm not buying either. But man, that's a crazy find. It looks like this is going through a little bit of a buyout, which, I mean, this has been the card of the era. So man, that's insane. And then, like I said, the opposite end of the spectrum is the Umbreon EX from Prismatic Evolutions. This thing down 26% in the last 3 months, 44% in the last 6 months. Recent sales on this thing of, I wish they didn't allow Japanese sellers or Chinese sellers, like all these, it's just so annoying. And the PSA 8, like, it's such garbage to filter through to actually find any sort of meaningful sales results, sales data. But it looks like one sold for $840 and the near mint price is $840 on this, so this is crazy to see. I mean, this thing has fallen so far. I do think, personally, there's still room for this to fall, especially if those Sam's Club boxes keep coming out. If they keep reprinting this set, more and more are going to be pulled. Eventually, this will find a bottom, but I don't think necessarily $800 is the bottom. I'm not chasing this card. In fact, I did buy this in Japanese because I wanted the art of the card, but I didn't want to chase it in English, so We'll see. If this comes down to like $400, maybe I would consider buying it, but even then, it's not cool enough for me to want personally my personal collection. It would just be like an investment at that point, and I don't love investing in single cards that I don't love personally, so I'm not sure. This one will probably just be one that I skip, but I'll keep open to Prismatic. If Prismatic keeps getting cheaper to open, the price per pack keeps coming down, I will still chase this card just because, and that's what I think will help the Prismatic Evolutions ETBs going forward, is that people are going to want to keep ripping Prismatic just to keep that chase alive because there's so much you can pull. Surging Sparks Elite Trainer Box, I do think these are interesting too. $74 is pretty good. If you can find this $70 to $80, I think these are really good, especially if you're looking for something to open. I mean, it's still not MSRP, but if you're going to Target, you're going to be spending $60 MSRP anyway. So at $75, if you can find it somewhere, that's not a terrible price, especially if you're looking to open. I think Surging Sparks is still the third best set. So if you're looking for something a little bit cheaper than Prismatic Evolutions, this could make sense. Personally, I'd rather just pay up and get Prismatic Evolutions, but there's a case to be made. Prismatic Evolutions ETB, keep your eye on that for sure. Finally, moving on to page 2, but we covered a lot with page 1. So Destined Rivals Pokemon Center exclusive Elite Trainer Box. We have to talk about this just because it's insane. I mentioned that I wouldn't be buying this at $260, and I thought I was all cool because it came down to $245. Unfortunately, it's since shot up to $300. Let's look at last sales: $360, $350, $340. So this thing shot up like crazy. I do think this could get reprinted because they reprinted Prismatic Evolutions ETBs from the Pokemon Center like 4 times. So I do expect this to get reprinted at some point on the Pokemon Center website, but it is a cool box. I bought one of these back here at $185, but at $300 and whatever, $380, $360, I'm definitely not buying more. I'll be holding, I only have one. I didn't get it from the Pokemon Center. Pokemon Center, I never get through their queue anymore, so I did not get this, and at $360, I will be passing, but waiting for more reprints on this. I will pick these up on a reprint. Bubble Mew, this thing's going crazy. We got to talk about it just because it is the card that's going crazy. Absolutely insane. $674. That's PSA 9. Oh my gosh, TCG player. $625. It looks like $658 for 2 sales. Most recent. No, market price at $698, just above $700. Looks like it's having trouble breaking through that $700 mark. There's a lot of near mints listed at $630, $630, $626. So that's good to see. This might have topped out at around $700. It might be coming back down. The volume, if you look at the volume sold, is fallen off a cliff. Volume has left the chat, which is interesting to see. So I do expect a slight retrace for this. Let's see how far down it comes. Again, I wasn't chasing this at 700. I'm not chasing it at 600. This is one I would love to have, but my entry point would be somewhere around 300. Obviously, that sounds, simple. Well, of course, Parrish, if you get this 50% off market, you'd look to buy it. But things come in and out of favor so much that this was $300 3 months ago. So I could see it coming down here, but more than likely it'll probably come down to like $500, $550, and then kind of level off there. At that price, I still wouldn't buy it, but I could see it sort of doing something like that. Surging Sparks Booster Box at $255. That's still an interesting one. I bought those at around $250. I still think those are pretty good. Paldea Evolved at $450 is absolutely insane. I'm not chasing that. Again, I think the set is deep, but it's got so many Gen 9 Pokemon that people don't really love Gen 9, so I'm a little bit curious as to where the love comes from that. So in my opinion, I'd be looking to sell those more than I'd be looking to buy them, but I don't think they're getting reprint anytime soon. I've only got a few of those boxes, and I'm holding on to mine. 151 Booster Bundle Display. Again, if you follow the channel, you know I got to look at this just because it's the most expensive product that I have. Well, it was, but if that Umbreon really is at $2,000, then the Umbreon would be my most expensive thing. But interesting to see. This one seems like it's come down a little bit. Recent sales of $14.95, $13.49, $14. And again, there was one sale on 9/3 for $17.25. So it's definitely come down a little bit, sort of starting to stabilize around that $14.95 range, $1500 range. There are a few listed at $14.50, $14.75. Yep. So looks like right there around that $1,500 mark is where this one's settling in at. It's still got a market price of $12.83, but it looks like the sales are pretty consistently above that, but not near the $1,800, $1,900 mark that we were seeing last week. So it's come down a little bit. We'll see where it goes from here. $1,500. I'm not chasing this, but I am holding the one I have. 151 booster packs while we're still on 151. These have come up a little bit, almost $13 a pack now. Market price of $12.90, which is crazy. But again, this is exactly what I was talking about. 2 weeks ago, I was able to get these for $10 all day with Blooming Waters, and now we look at another $13 a pack. So if you can find Blooming Waters out there to get your packs for, even $11 a pack would make sense. $12 a pack is still decent. If Blooming Waters stops being printed in the way that it has been, and they shift the printing to the Prismatic Evolutions giant collection boxes, and going forward in the holiday season, they print all these collection boxes with Journey Together, Destined Rivals, all these booster packs that aren't 151, I could see this start to creep up and be $15 by the holiday season for sure. So keep an eye on this one. This is still one that I think is, this and Prismatic Evolutions are the best plays going forward, especially if you can find them anywhere near market. But interesting to see these start to tick up, because I've been calling for that for a while. Blooming Waters, again, we were just talking about that, but $142 market price seems a little bit expensive. Those might be getting away from me. At $142 divided by 12 packs, you're still at around $12 a pack. So you can find these without tax and free shipping. If you have a reseller's license, you can get these from eBay. It can still make sense. The Charizards are still going crazy. I've been calling for these for a while, but similar to 151, I'm not buying them anymore. I'm just grading the ones that I do have and they're out just grading. And then if I sell those in a 10, then I'll recoup them, kind of try to run the play again. But these have run too fast, too furious. This is still my favorite card of the era, but at $300, there's just, in my opinion, better cards out there that you can buy and better plays. So for me personally, I'm not buying these. Paldean Fates booster bundles at $100 is insane. This is one where if you don't have any 151 or Paldean Fates and you're looking to spend $100 on a booster bundle, I would personally like 151 better. However, if you do have 151, you're looking to diversify a little bit, I think Paldean Fates booster bundles is a really good choice because this set is so good. It's about to have the most expensive card in the whole era with this Mew EX. Once it passes the Umbreon EX, I do think it'll do that. Although, like I said, the Mew EX has actually hit a wall at 700 and kind of coming down. But I do think Paldean Fates has the Mew, Charizard, Gardevoir. I think those cards will continue to do well. So this set will do well long term. I just don't think it'll do well as 151. But it makes sense. It was just less printed than 151. I do believe that. So if you don't have any exposure to it, it might make sense here before it goes totally out of print, out of rotation. Destined Rivals booster bundles, again, at $45. That can make sense. Booster boxes are going crazy as the premier product to invest in, but if you're just looking for something to rip, these booster bundles at $45 for Destined Rivals, the value in the set is still holding up quite well. So $46 for a little bundle, that can make sense for both ripping and investing. I do like Destined Rivals booster bundles here and might start looking into some of those too to sort of diversify from Prismatic Evolutions, because I've got a lot of Prismatic. I don't have a ton of Destined Rivals. So these booster bundles, especially if you can find like a master case of 25, it might make sense. I'm going to start looking into that, honestly. Zapdos from 151 going crazy up to $94 market price. That's good to see because, like I said, I've been calling it for a while, but a little bit too fast for me, so I'm not looking at these anymore. Snorlax 151 promo card. This is one I'm still looking to buy. Again, I would rather have 5 Snorlax promos than 1 Zapdos EX at this point, only because of how far Zapdos has run so far. If I didn't have any Zapdos, I would still consider it at $100 because I do think this card will do very well in the future, but I have a whole bunch of these, so instead, I would be looking at these 151 Snorlax promos. Again, this comes from the Elite Trainer box that's almost $400 now. We'll take a look at that. So $20 for a $400 box for a sweet promo, popular Pokemon, 151 original. I do think that card will continue to do well. Mewtwo V-Star, I think Crown Zenith is a little bit slept on. This card, however, does not fit that little narrative. This card has gone crazy and again is one that I'm not chasing. I am looking to buy Crown Zenith singles. I don't think some of them have run as much as their 151 counterparts, and I do think there are some cards that are just as good, but this one in particular is just like the other Charizards, and it's run up, 100% in 3 months, which is crazy. So I'm not personally chasing this one. I'd be looking to buy other cards that haven't made that run yet. The Pokemon Center exclusive 151 Elite Trainer box, this one's just going insane still, but it's definitely peaking out. It's recent sales 930, 950, 900, 942, 949. So it looks like it hit about 950 as its top. It'll be interesting to see if the psychological barrier of $1,000 has this sitting here stagnant for a while. And that's the problem with all these high flying boxes. We've had such a crazy bull market that eventually the line on the graph will stop going up and to the right, and eventually it'll just start going to the right. I do think a lot of these boxes will start to stagnate, and that's why I'm not buying them at this level. I'm holding on to the one that I do have because it's free money at this point, but I am interested to see when these start to stagnate. Again, I do think this graph is accurate, and it's just been stagnant all month. From the 30th, $946, and now here we are in the 10th of September, and it's only $953, while other things have run up like crazy. This one continues to go sideways, so I could see that with some of these high-flying boxes, especially the Pokemon Center exclusive Elite Trainer boxes, because they're such a new product, but they're just so scarce that it's so easy to manipulate. Only a few purchases here. 3 items sold, 8 items sold. Realistically, if you're looking at this, these aren't a lot of items sold. It doesn't take a lot to move this market. Someone with deep pockets could move this very easily. Lugia V Alt Art continues to go crazy, $400. I'm not chasing that. Charizard promo. Again, I've been saying all along, Charizard's going to keep going up with the hype of the new set. $51, I'm not chasing. I am holding the one that I have. Lost Origin booster box at $815. That one has gone a little bit sideways as well, but $800 is still insane for that box that was, you know, it could be picked up for $100 a year or two ago. Blastoise EX, another one, $82, which is below the Zapdos, which is interesting. I think the Zapdos is now the second most expensive card in 151, but still some opportunity there. That hasn't run as much as the Zapdos, so I am still picking these up because I do think the starter trio will continue to do well long term. And the Eevee from the Prismatic Evolutions ETB, again, is another one that I think makes sense. At $13, it's a little bit like, I'd rather have the Snorlax because it's an older card from a more expensive box, from a set that's more loved, but I do think Eevee is probably more loved than Snorlax. Both Pokemon are sleeping. Both are very similar in that case, but again, this Eevee card comes from a $100 Prismatic Evolutions ETB. The Snorlax comes from a $350 151 ETB. So if you're looking at the two, probably makes sense to buy more Snorlax, but again, I don't like going all in on one thing, so I do think this Eevee is another really good play for looking at that $10 to $15 market price. Destined Rivals ETBs at $100. I'm still waiting for these ETBs to get reprinted, and I'll start backing the truck up, loading the boat. 151 ETBs at $400. Crazy. But again, that's why the Snorlax makes sense. Paldean Fates Pokemon Center exclusive Elite Trainer Box, $510. Insane. Prismatic Evolutions booster packs at $9 is pretty interesting to me. That's what I'm saying. So I'm starting to make that transition from buying 151, since it's now $12, $13 a pack, to Prismatic Evolutions at $9 a pack, because I do think eventually Prismatic Evolutions will follow the same path as 151. However, with loose packs being less of a premium, the only reason I'm buying 151 loose packs is because I can get them from Blooming Waters, as opposed to looking at the 151 Elite Trainer Box where they're, you know, almost $30 to $40 a pack. And that's where I think the mismatch is going to come from. I think it makes sense to pick up Prismatic Evolutions ETBs. I talked about this, but I am keeping an eye on these loose packs here, because at $9 a pack, that's an interesting case, because eventually they'll run up just like 151, just like Evolving Sky, just like others before them. Fusion Strike at $9.53, another one I could see going sideways for a little bit because it's run up so fast so soon. Pikachu Secret Rare from Crown Zenith, $38. I still love that card personally. I have one in a PSA 10 that I'm holding on to, not quite selling that yet. Charmander Scarlet Violet Obsidian Flames promo card at $38. Again, I just think there's better boxes out there. I know this is a meme and this card will do better. Will do good long term, so if you don't have any of it, it might make sense to pick at least one of these cards up, just because it is the meme, and I do think that meme will be here for a long time. And so any card like that has a popular Pokemon that is a meme, good art, comes from an expensive box, will do well long term, but again, I'd just rather have 3 or 4 151 Snorlaxes when they're coming out of a box that costs so much more. Venusaur EX from 151, $75. We talked about that. This is just going up with 151, but I'm still buying these, trying to grade them. Pikachu EX 271. This had a little bit of a bounce. It was down to about 250 and bounced up to 271. I'm still not purchasing this personally. With Surging Sparks continuing to get reprinted, I do think these will get pulled more. That might drag the price down a little bit, but it is interesting to note that it bounced off 250. But again, I just don't like chasing those expensive single cards, and there's a lot of single cards here on this 5th page, so we'll go over some of the best. The Charizard V-Star, $68, and that's the promo card from the UPC, the one where he's fighting Mewtwo. This one goes along with its counterpart from Crown Zenith, which is going crazy, so I think these two will continue to do well together, just because they're such unique arts, such good art styles. The Magikarp, $264, that's got away from me, obviously. I bought it in Japanese just to have the art. Crown Zenith Elite Trainer boxes, $216. Those do make sense. I do think, me personally, I'd rather buy 2 Prismatic Evolutions ETBs than 1 Crown Zenith Elite Trainer box, but I could totally see the argument for you buying Crown Zenith instead, because I do think it is one of those sets that will do very, very well long term. And if people are focused more on 151 and buying those instead, so I guess the hierarchy would be, I'd rather have 2 Prismatic Evolutions than 1 Crown Zenith, but I'd almost rather have 2 Crown Zenith than 1 151 ETB, as crazy as that might be. But I do think Crown Zenith is one of the best sets of the era. It just lacks those big Pokemon like 151 has that are so nostalgic, and I think that gives it a little bit of a disadvantage. But at $200 for an Elite Trainer box, I think that could make sense. Gardevoir from Paldean Fates at $131. I was calling out buying that at $85. Now that's $131. I'm probably not buying any more of those. Fat Pikachu from Celebrations. This has come down a little bit, $5, which is interesting to see. Mimikyu promo card from the Paldean Fates box at $11. Again, I'd rather have Eevee or Snorlax, me personally. The Mew Crown Zenith Galarian Gallery from Crown Zenith. This one's gone insane. This is $43 now. it's pumping up with all the yellow bordered trainer galleries. Again, I made a video about that probably 2 weeks ago now, saying that I still think there's some room here. But if you had some of these, if you were in the hobby during these cards weren't that hard to pull. So maybe look at pulling some out of your bulk and trade binders if you got any trade binders laying around. And you might want to start looking to offload some of these. Now, if you only have one, maybe hold on to it because it's such an iconic card. It's such cool artwork that it could go up. But again, I don't know. For me personally, again, I'm not chasing these. I'm holding on to them, the ones that I have, to see what they do, see how high they go. Pikachu from 151 at $45. I still think 151, specifically these little art rares, I still think these make sense. I know art rares typically have like a limit of like $50. Most of the good art rares of the era are around that $50 mark. But again, when I look at what I can get for $50, I'd rather have this Pikachu, Charmander, Bulbasaur, and Squirtle art rares from 151 for $50. And especially if you look at their graded prices, I mean, the Charmander, I've got it listed for like $400 in a PSA 10. Going from taking a $50 card and selling it in a $400 PSA 10 is a really good return. I know they're hard to grade, but personally, I'm looking at these cards a little bit more than some of the others that have run up, just because I do think there's so much potential here. With this being just such good arts of such popular Pokemon, I mean, this Pikachu card has so many other Gen 1 Pokemon on it that I think that'll do very well long term. But I said the same thing about the Trainer Gallery, the Pikachu Trainer Gallery cards from Lost Origin. And those sat, the V and the V Max Trainer Gallery with red on them, those sat at like $40 and $55 forever. I think they just now started moving, but I've been buying those since. I remember buying the Pikachu V Max for $55 from my local game store like 3 years ago and thought I was making a big play, and then it stayed $55 for 3 years. So again, I could see these 151 art rares doing the same thing, kind of staying stagnant, but eventually one day they'll jump just like everything else. It just might be a while. So there might be other places to place your money, but as far as grading plays go, because I'm still trying to do grading plays, these art rares are ones that I'm definitely looking at because they command such a premium in PSA 10. The Mew from Celebrations Hollow, this one's interesting. It got up to $7, is down to $3.46. And that's what I was saying. These were so easy to pull that if you had any in your bulk, you should probably look at offloading them. I went through my bulk and could only find one, surprisingly. So I was supposed to list it, got lazy, never did. Now it's $3, might not even be worth listing, but $3 for a bulk rare is probably still worth it. Ethan's Ho-Oh, $183. I just sent one of these for grading. I'm happy I got it, but I do think these will come down as Destined Rivals gets reprinted more. There's going to be a ton of collection boxes coming out over the holidays, and people are going to be opening up those collection boxes with Christmas and all those things. So I do think the price of Destined Rivals singles will start to come down as those collection boxes start to trickle out over the holiday season. Squirtle Art Rare from Stellar Crown. Again, this one's $64. That's what I was saying. This one and the Bulbasaur were at like $50, $55 forever. And that, along with the Eevee and the Ghastly art rares, the best art rares of this set have been sitting around that $50 mark for a long time. And I think that's just how the market is right now. So interesting to see those running up a little bit. We'll see if they make a run for like $80 to match with those 151 special illustration rares, if they'll come back down to stay in that $50 range. Giratina V Star Gold card from Galarian Gallery, $189. This one's interesting because, like I said, I don't think this is run as much as the other cards, but when you look at the 3 month, it's only run up 17%, which when you compare it to the Mewtwo, which is up like 100%, and when you look at some of the Charizards, this one could still make sense, and I'm tempted to buy these. The problem with these is Crown Zenith grades so easily, so when I'm looking at cards to do grading plays on, I'm really looking for cards with high 10 rates, which this one has, but the problem with that is the PSA 10 price isn't very much. So again, for $200, I could buy one of these, or I could buy all of the Charmander, Squirtle, Pikachu, and Bulbasaur and take a shot on all of those for the same price as one Giratina V-Star. I know it costs more to grade those for, but if one of those hits a 10, it's worth like $400, whereas if this Giratina hits a 10, it might only be worth $400 on its own. But I paid $200 for the raw card, so it almost makes sense to be putting my money towards other cards when this one doesn't have as much of a Gem Mint 10 premium as some of the others, like the Bulbasaur from 151, which is what I was talking about. Again, to see these popping up in the front half, the first 10 pages is very interesting to me. So these are definitely one I'm buying now, but also one I'm keeping my eye on. Celebrations Charizard, I'm going to keep screaming this. Next to the Charmander from 151, that's what I was saying, this is up to $48. I'm still buying these, but the Celebrations Charizard, I'm still buying these, but only like the other Charizards when I make a sale for Celebrations. So again, I was screaming buy. I've been screaming buy and buying these for like 2 years now, thanks to Dan Kitchenwall Collectibles. But most recent sales, 140, 137, 128, 132. So kind of all over the place, but comfortably above 130, which is where these near mints are listed. But there's only two at 130, and then it jumps up to 140. So interesting to see this one has run up 41% in the last 3 months. Again, I don't love chasing, but if the market's there on a PSA 10, if PSA 10 prices are still running, I'll still do the play. However, I'm waiting for my PSA 10 copies to sell before buying any more of these. I bought a ton of these the last month or so at 100 to 120, so I'm sitting pretty good with the ones that I do have. Even the copies that weren't gradable, I just set them to the side, and we'll kind of watch, see what this does. I still think Celebrations will do very well going into 30th anniversary. Obviously, Pokemon will be pumping so much advertising into that I think these cards will continue to do well, so I'm holding on to those. Celebrations Elite Trainer Box, again at that $200 price point, $240, but if you're looking to spend $200 on an ETB, I had mentioned Crown Zenith being not a bad play, but Celebrations is one that I do also think could be a very good play, especially with Celebrations coming up. I think if you're looking at a shorter term hold, the Celebrations ETB could make sense. Longer term, I could see Crown Zenith doing better just because it's a deeper set. But for the 30th anniversary coming up, I think the Celebrations ETB at 240 can make sense for sure. Brilliant Stars Booster Box at 533. I still think this is one of the better boxes of the Sword and Shield era. So if we've got deeper pockets, that could make sense. I'm not chasing personally, but again, just because something's gone up doesn't mean you should necessarily not buy it. But in my opinion, I would just rather put my money into 5 Prismatic ETBs. Misty Psyduck, again, another art rare at 55 bucks. That's where the popular art rares have been sitting for the longest time. I should look at grading these, but I'll need to check the Gem Mint 10 prices. Marty's Marpeco, that's the one that came from those battle deck, up to $47, which is crazy. But again, when you look at what the art rares are going for, it can make sense because it can run right up to that $50 mark. On page 9, there is an opportunity that I want to jump out at that is a screaming buy, in my opinion. This Articuno from Journey Together at 20 bucks. Again, the popular art rares are going for 50 bucks. I think there's tons of opportunity for this card to make that run to $50. I think Journey Together is not as favorite of a set as some of the others, so it's not being opened as much, which means there's not as many of these Articunos, not as much attention being paid to it. I think this is a popular Pokemon, beautiful art on it, beautiful art rare. For $20, I think this is a screaming buy right now. I've been picking these up in PSA 9 when I can, if I can find a PSA 9 for the raw price, but then I'm also picking up raws to try to grade. And this one has not made its run yet, and is one that I'm actively buying that I think will make a run eventually. Squirtle 151 art rare, sort of the same thing, $44. I'm still buying those, trying to make the play. Lance's Charizard at $11. I love this card. Unfortunately, again, there's just other places that I'd rather put my money, I think. I do love this card. It's essentially Trainer Gallery before there's Trainer Galleries, and Lance is popular original champion. Charizard's obviously a popular Pokemon. This little stamp here will do very well. The only hesitation I have is that it was like a $2 card a year or two ago. That's the only hesitation I have with it, but it's such a cool card. I really do love this card. I have one sent out for grading now, and we'll kind of see what happens with it. But personally, I still think there's some opportunity there. Charizard from Shiny Fates. This one's doing interesting things in PSA 10. $113 can still make sense. I still love this card. My favorite card of the Sword and Shield era. Ghastly art rare, that one I'm talking about. Again, $50 art rares all day. They love to sit there. Here on page 11, there's one card specifically that I'm looking for that I still think is an opportunity. Let's see if I find it. It's not on page 11. Page 12. Nope. Well, Suicune V, again, $40 for, this is a special art rare. So this is, or special illustration rare. For only $43, this is what I was talking about. Crown Zenith, I think these SIRs still have a little bit of room to go. These Galarian Gallery cards with the texture specifically, like the Suicune, the Glaceon, the Leafeon, Entei, Raikou. I do think all of those still have, these have not run recently, and I do think they could run just like everything else. I mean, it's only up 12% in the last 3 months. That's not run like everything else is run, so I think there's opportunity there. I'm still buying and grading those cards. The Mew Secret Rare from Celebrations at $64. I'm still doing that play. I just sold one today in a Gem Mint 10 for $250, so I'll probably be looking to pick up 2 more of those to run the play again. But the card I was looking for is the Gold Charizard from Obsidian Flames, and last I saw it, it was on one of the first pages. But I'm not seeing it on here. But I do think that is a good play going forward. That one has not run up like any of the other Charizards have. And the fact that it's only like $25 for a gold card, B, a Charizard card, 3 from a box of Obsidian Flames is going crazy. I do think there's some opportunity in that card. So I'm buying as many of those as I can and trying to grade those as well. You see here, the Pikachu is the one that I would kind of compare it to. And that's a $54 card. Popular Pokemon, still got the crown and all that. So I think, me personally, the Charizard at $25 is still a little bit undervalued. And again, here, there's Leafeon V-Star from Crown Zenith at $50 on page 20. That means not a lot of people are looking at it. I do think there's some opportunity there too. So there's definitely still some opportunity in this market, but let me know in the comments what you guys think. If you made it this far, leave me a rocket emoji to let me know that the market is still booming. I appreciate you guys for watching. Let me know in the comments what you guys are buying, if you guys are selling into this Pokemon boom. Are you holding on to everything, anticipating the 30th anniversary will go crazy? But let me know in the comments what you guys are doing, and I appreciate you guys for watching. I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace.